Hello again, this is Dolores Cannon with the Metaphysical Hour, and we're ready to go again. Let me give out the numbers first, the ones to call in. If you want to call in during the show and ask any questions, the local number for the United States is 1-888-268-4313. 1-888-268-4313. The international number for those who want to call in from other countries is 1-281-419-7697. 1-281-419-7697. All right. I hope everyone had a nice holiday season. Now we are just in the first week after the New Year's in the year 2006. Although we never know when you people are going to download this, what time it will be. Well, that's the time we're recording and we're broadcasting right now. It's just after the first of the year. And we just hope this whole new year is going to bring everything. Oh, maybe it'll bring peace to the world and all the things that we hope to happen. I know right here in Arkansas, we are in the middle of a very bad drought. We haven't had any rain for almost a month, where they're getting too much out in California. So it seems like everything is really turned upside down with the weather and the climate and everything. All right. What I would like to do is finish what we were talking about the last 2 weeks. We started at Christmas about the story of Jesus and the ones that what I had found from my books, The Jesus and the Essenes, and They Walked with Jesus. And I started Christmas with the Star of Bethlehem and going through many parts of his life. And then last week, we continued on with this. But there were some important parts that I thought we needed to complete. I can't touch on everything because there's just too much. When I'm doing the lectures, I can lecture for 3 hours and sometimes even longer on some of these subjects. So that's why I knew it was going to have to be broken up when we got to the parts of this. But there are some parts that have never been reported in the Bible that I think are very interesting, and I think people out there should know about. The majority of these things are not told to you in church. This does not take away from the religious beliefs. I think it just adds more to it when you have more of the information. As these books, when they first came out, Jesus and the Essenes was printed in about 1992 out of England. And at that time, the book took off. And as I did lectures in England, a lot of people began to come up to me and they said, have you heard the legends here in England about Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea? And they said they back up your books 100%. And I'd never heard of the legends that took place in that part of the world. I had just reported what I had found and the research I had found. Now, whenever the book now has gone into its 4th or 5th printing, I know we're in our 3rd printing here in the United States, the last edition I added an addendum to the back of Jesus and the Essenes containing a lot of this lost information that has been forwarded to me now. If I'd had it in the beginning, I probably would have included it in the books, but I didn't, and it began to come to me afterwards. This is quite an amazing and humbling experience to go through this on just faith and belief alone, believing you have the information and you feel you must get it out to people, even though it's going against the establishment, it's going against some religious beliefs. I knew I had to write these books, and they were printed. But it's quite a humbling and wonderful experience to have people come forward to validate the information that I had found in many different ways, because I get letters sent to me, I have books mailed to me, emails, of many things where people can validate and prove a lot of the things that are in my books. This to me is very satisfying, and I really like it. And I'm grateful to my readers out there who are loyal to me and are always sending me more validation. And I welcome it. I want you to keep sending it to me. But in the information that I received in the regression, and then later was found with my research, was that, I think I told you last week, that Joseph of Arimathea was one of the main players who has been forgotten and left out of the Bible, except for the one small mention where he was an uncle of Jesus who, he was, in the Bible it says he was a rich man who gave up his tomb for Jesus. But in reality, he was Jesus' uncle, and I think we talked about that last week. Joseph of Arimathea was Jesus' uncle, and he was related to Mary, and he was one of the richest men in the world. And he was so important that they cannot understand why he was not put more about him in the Bible, because he was one of the most important and influential and richest men of during that time. He had fleets of ships, and he traveled all over the world trading tin mostly. He did other things also, but the main product he traded was tin, which he got from the mines, the tin mines in England. And Jesus went with him on all of these trips, studying from the wisest masters in the world at that time, the wisest teachers. And when I began telling these stories in England, this is when people came up to me and said, "Have you heard the legends?" And they have the legends that Jesus walked the shores in Glastonbury and different areas there, and that Mary was there also, that she traveled with him at times when he was young, and the legends are still there. They said even the tin miners today have a song that they sing, and it deals with Joseph was a tin man. So the legends are still kept alive in that part of the world. But they began sending me books, and the one book that I think is very important is not very many copies out there that they sent me. Is called The Drama of the Lost Disciples. The Drama of the Lost Disciples. I don't have the author in front of me, but in our websites, and if you want to communicate with us, we can put you in touch with the publishing company in England. When I first read this book, I was blown away. It is based on solid fact, where the author went to Rome and to all the other places where the records were kept and went back into old records. He found letters, books, stories. He found all of these things that the church had access to, but decided never to include them in the Bible. And everything that he has reported on is based on very ancient facts. And after I read the book, we contacted the publishers in England because I wanted to handle the book in America. And they said they weren't interested. They were a small company, and they were just going day by day, filling the orders as they come in. They didn't want to increase their market. So what I did was make a copy of the information about the book. And when I'm doing lectures on Jesus, I have it available if anyone wants to get this book directly from the publisher. But has anyone ever wondered what happened to all of the other characters in the Bible after the crucifixion? They never really go into all the stories. What happened to the rest of the disciples? What happened to Mother Mary? These things are never in the Bible. And what I found out was that the Fifth Council is when they decided to write the Bible. They said they had access to thousands and thousands of letters, books, articles, all kinds of things. And this is what they compiled to make the Bible. A lot of people don't like to think that. They like to think that they like to think that God wrote through the people who wrote the Bible. that they wrote to them, and it was actually like God was writing the entire Bible. Actually, the Bible was written by man because it was put together by these people at this council. And they were at that time decided, this is what we will include, this is what we will leave out, and this is what we will say Jesus said. So there was a great deal that was left out. Later, many years later, a lot of this information that I have found came forth. And the people who were involved with the church said, this needs to be in the Bible because it's more information and it fleshes out the story. And they said, no, it's finished, it's written, we're not going to add any more to it. So they were very aware of these other stories at the time they were putting all this together. They just chose not to include it in the Bible that has come down to us today. But in the stories that they told us that the people directed me to, the story of the drama of the lost disciples. In that story, after the crucifixion, it wasn't very many months afterwards, the disciples were in danger, Joseph of Arimathea was in danger, and definitely Mother Mary was in danger, because they were trying to kill all the ones who had been associated with Jesus. They knew they were going to have to get out of Israel. Now, Joseph was so rich and powerful, they didn't know what they were going to do with him, because if they were to kill him outright, it would have created a big uprising. It would have created a lot of problems, because the Romans, everyone, knew of his power. They devised a scheme that to them seemed rational. They said, we won't kill him. We will let nature kill him. So what they did, they rounded everyone up, and there was Joseph of Arimathea, and he decided to take Mother Mary with him because he couldn't have left her there in Israel because she would have been in more danger by herself. Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, I believe there was the other Marys that were involved with Lazarus, because Lazarus is one of the ones who went. He became a very important figure in all of this. Lazarus, if you remember from the Bible, is the one who was raised from the dead by Jesus. He was actually a cousin of Jesus, and he was raised from the dead, and this was the continuing part of what happened to him after the death, the crucifixion of Jesus. He was one of the people. There were 12 disciples. They always had to be 12, because every time one of them was killed or one of them would die, they were replaced by another, so that the number remained constant at 12. The Romans put all of these people on a boat, and in the drama of the lost disciples, it said the records vary on how many people there were altogether that were put on this boat. But in some accounts, it may be as high as 100 people. But the main characters were Joseph of Arimathea, Mother Mary, and Mary Magdalene, Lazarus. There were several other names that are mentioned in the Bible, and the 12 disciples. One of these was John, the favorite disciple. They were all put on the boat, and it was a boat without oars and without sails.